you watch my channel, you know I love this microphone. And I thought it would be a good comparison to go against the Aston Origin. The Aston Origin. We're going to say it right. What's happening, Boot Junkies? Mike Delgadio here, back with another video on home studio setup for voiceover. Oh, it feels good. Feels good in the booth today. Let's hope I don't turn into a sweaty puddle. Air conditioner's still broken. Yes, it's hot in here. And I've been recording today, and it's been hot. But it's late now. It's late at night. Neither here nor there. I am excited to be in the booth today so I can talk to you about this microphone right here. We're going to talk about this one because people ask me all the time, can you test this one? Can you test it? Can you please? Can you? Well, yeah, finally I can because I got my hands on one. Thank you, Cryptfire Gaming, another YouTuber out there, Cryptfire Gaming. Mr. Crypt, thank you so much for sending me your Aston Origin to use and to play with. Man, how cool is that? Thank you so much. Very, very generous. What a cool microphone. All right. I'm going to do it as I always like to do. We're going to talk about this microphone. We're going to compare it to another one in my locker. This one is my CAD e100S. Very comparable microphones, slightly different microphones. We'll talk about the differences between them, and we'll talk about the. Well, I'll let you hear the sound differences between them and go back and forth. If you watch my channel, you know that this is one of my favorites. This is a microphone I use all the time. I love it. This is the CAD e100S, CAD Equitech e100, the e100S microphone. I used it for a long time. If you watch my channel, you know I love this microphone. And I thought it would be a good comparison to go against the Aston Origin. The Aston Origin. We're going to say it right. The Aston Origin. Okay, so why did I choose these two? Well, they're somewhat similar in price point, and they have some similar features. And I think, you may be trying to decide between maybe the aesthetic. They both are interesting looking microphones. Maybe this one is the kind of thing that you're looking for. So let's talk about what features we'll concentrate on the Aston, but what these features are. First, we'll start with the pattern. This one, the Aston, the Origin, is a cardioid pattern, which means it's going to be sensitive from the front, less sensitive from the back. Whereas the e100S is a super cardioid pattern, which means it's going to be, I touched it, very sensitive from the front, and as you get off to the side, it will become less sensitive sooner than the Origin. That as you go off to the side, it should stay sensitive as you get farther and farther off to the side. It's just the pattern of sensitivity from the front. They both have switches on the front. So sometimes microphones will have switches that add some additional functionality to the microphone. Not all microphones have them. I've got a number of microphones that don't have buttons and switches. It's just what the manufacturer decides to do. Very common switches that you find are for padding. So if you're going to be putting your microphone in front of a very loud source and you're concerned that the circuitry of the microphone is going to overload, you can engage the pad and make it less sensitive, usually by a measure of decibels. Both of these microphones have a pad switch that will make it 10 decibels less sensitive. So a 10 dB pad on the Origin, it's on the left side, and on the CAD, it's on the left side. Now, on the right side, on both of them, there's another switch. That's the high pass filter. All the frequencies above a certain level come through, and the microphone will naturally try and eliminate the lowest frequency. So in both cases, it's an 80 hertz high pass filter. Everything below 80 hertz will start to get attenuated. It's not like a hard cutoff, like at 79 hertz, you can't hear anything. It falls off very rapidly for both of them. And that is to address the proximity effect, which is the tendency that as you get closer and closer to a microphone, I'm going to try not to pop it, as you get closer to a microphone, it will tend to sound a little bassier. Now, sometimes a producer or a director will say, now get right up on there, just eat that microphone, just eat it up and get right into my ear. And they like that really bassy sound. And sometimes you just want to be able to get closer and have that bass not be present. You just want to sound closer. So what you can do is you can engage that switch so that as you get closer to it, you don't quite have that same bassiness to your voice. It still sounds like you, just closer and louder. Whereas if you turn the proximity switch off as you get close to it, you can get that extra bass. Creative decision. Whatever you want to do, you can do with that switch. Not all microphones have it. I've got a number of very expensive microphones that don't have that switch. It's just something that the manufacturer tends to build in. It is a very common feature in both. Let's talk about the price of these microphones. The Aston, I hadn't really realized, it's a really modestly priced microphone for its build quality, for its its aesthetic. I'm less concerned with how a mic looks compared to how it sounds. I want the mic to have a good sound primarily. But, if it's going to be on camera, maybe you want to have a cool looking mic. And definitely the Origin has, or all the Aston mics, they are very distinctive looking, really sort of a retro industrial sort of thing. Whereas the most microphones are just very, very practical. Sometimes they'll, they might have some flair to it. But this is sort of it's got some flair to it. Now, I don't think this is the normal shock mount that comes with this. This looks like a really super aftermarket, like a very inexpensive one. There is a thread on the bottom so that you can put the microphone directly onto a stand. Why? I don't know why you would do that. I always, I have a much higher preference for a shock mount. But this is the one that the owner sent to me in this aftermarket shock mount. I think this is just an inexpensive Amazon, is my guess. I'm not sure what Aston actually sends, what they sell to you. I don't know. So hopefully I'm not talking out of school there. But it's it does benefit by having a shock mount. It's the grill on this one is interesting. It's got this I don't know what you would call it. It's almost like a tube of metal that's been perforated and stretched like a slinky that does give it quite a bit of rigidity. It's a very the capsule itself is very well protected, and then underneath this grill there's a metal mesh that it says acts as a pop filter. I have noticed that still I'm getting some plosives through it. I'm trying to use the best mic technique I can so that I don't send plosives into the mic because I want you to be able to see the microphones. But overall, extremely durably made, at least from the exterior. It's really solid. It's got a nice weight to it. The guts of it, I don't know. That's for us to decide with the sound. So I've been going back and forth. Now I'm hearing both in my head, and the thing I'm noticing is there seems to be a lot of phase cancellation between these two microphones, which leads me to believe they're going to sound relatively similar. I'm going to guess that these two microphones, it'll be up to your impression of it may be different than mine, but I think these are going to be relatively similar because as I get between one or the other, I hear them very, very clearly. But as I talk right down the middle of it, with these being as closely, I try and put them as closely equidistant from my mouth, there seems to be a lot of cancellation from it, which seems to me, that would be my guess, that it's going to make it sound very similar between the two. But there's a pretty significant price difference. I think there's $100 price difference between these two. When I checked on Amazon today, this was $269 for the Origin, and I think it's $369 for the e100. $368 for the e100S right now. So you might be able to save if you've liked the way my e100S sounds. The Aston Origin seems to be pretty doggone close. For $100 less, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. The difference would be if you needed the pattern. The super cardioid pattern of the e100S can be beneficial if you have more noise. My whisper room is very, it's pretty quiet in here. It's got an extremely low noise floor, so I don't have to really worry too much about ambient noise. But the e100S will have slightly better rejection of noise that you can put behind the microphone. Sorry for the plosive. That you can put behind the microphone. And that's just the nature, and it's slight. I mean, it's the difference between 90 degrees out and like 75 degrees. You know, it's subtle. It's subtle, but there is a slight difference. But man, price-wise, very reasonable. Durability, cool factor. What do you think? What do you think of the Aston Orange? Or I always want to say Aston Orange. I'm dumb. I'm so dumb. Anyway, what do you think about the Aston Origin? It's pretty good, right? Pretty good? Well, I do want to say thank you, a great big thank you to Cryptfire Gaming for loaning me this microphone. I'll get it right back to you. Thank you so much. That's all I have for you today. I hope that helps. So if you're making a decision, trying to think about the Aston Origin, doggone it, the Aston Origin. If you've been thinking about the Aston Origin, maybe this video helps you. I hope so. I'm curious to hear what people think about the difference between these. If there is a significant difference, what your impressions are. Yeah. Really cool. I'm really excited. That's all I have for you today. Now, go get yourself a microphone. Maybe a super cool looking microphone. Maybe a square one. I don't know. Get yourself a microphone. Any microphone. Get yourself a microphone so you can get in the booth. You can record something amazing. Thanks. We'll talk to you next time.